Hey guys, coming at you today with a recipe I've been meaning to do for a while. And today is going to be a test, but I'm hoping it should work out. And I wanted to get it out for Thanksgiving. A keto pecan pie recipe. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining me. My name's Alycia and I'm a pastry chef. I've been a chef my entire life and a mom to a toddler now. I'm here to bring you all the tips and tricks on how to make the best healthy, keto, low carb meals, snacks, and desserts possible. So if you enjoy this type of content, please consider hitting the subscribe button down there, giving the video a thumbs up, leave me comments, and share with all your friends and family. It all helps my channel grow and to bring you new keto, healthy, low carb recipes every Saturday. Today, a more low carb pecan pie. It is still 3 grams of net carbs for 1/8 of it. That's without any whipped cream or anything you want to put on top of this. But I do have some alternatives to bring it down to only 2 grams net carbs per slice. But I prefer the one that's 3 grams net carbs. It's my pie crust with the coconut flour in it. You can swap out coconut flour for bamboo fiber. I did a test video. I'll link it up there for you where I kind of compared swapping out different ingredients in my pie dough recipe. So if you are interested in that, it'll be linked there. But I'm gonna do the coconut flour one today. I already have a 9-inch pie pan. I forgot in my pumpkin pie video to spray it, so I sprayed it ahead of time. And we're gonna make the pie dough first because that has to chill while we're getting everything else ready to go. First, I usually grate my butter. You want refrigerator cold or just in the freezer for a couple minutes. If you have it in there too long, it's really hard to grate. 3 ounces of grated, or you can cube it up and put it in the freezer and then cut it in with your fingers. But it's harder to do that and you don't want the butter too warm. So it is definitely easier to grate it. You can also use a salad shooter or a food processor with the grater on it. After we grate it, we're gonna throw it in the freezer while we get our dry ingredients ready. So we need 3 ounces. Keep the wrapper on it to kind of keep your hand heat at bay. And that's why I always weigh, because some recipes I have, they're 4 ounces of butter, which our sticks are supposed to be 4 ounces. But when you go and grate it, you know, you're losing some on your grater and stuff like that. So you always want to weigh it out to get the most accurate measurements. There we go. So I'm gonna pop this into the freezer and we're gonna get our dry ingredients ready, which is pretty simple. 1 teaspoon of gelatin. I use grass-fed beef gelatin. I prefer oat fiber, but you can also swap bamboo for the oat fiber. The reason you can swap out in this recipe is because you're adding as much ice water as you need to get it to come together like a dough. A lot of times when you swap things out in recipes, if you already have your wet ingredients and you need to get enough flour to make it a certain texture, it's harder to gauge how much of the flour you're gonna need. It's basically equal parts oat, coconut, and whey, unflavored whey protein isolate. So you can swap out the coconut flour for bamboo fiber in this. Your crust won't get very brown. You might want to do an egg wash on it to make sure it browns. The bamboo fiber doesn't brown at all, really. Coconut flour helps our keto baked goods get a little bit brown. The protein powder is 1 packed scoop. I don't keep the scoops in here because I always just weigh everything. You can always like make big batches of this and then break it up into however many batches you did and freeze them in pucks and just pull them out as you need them. It's a good idea when you're doing a lot of holiday baking. You might have to put it in the fridge every once in a while, you know, while you're working with it because you don't want the butter to melt. And when you have a big batch, it takes longer to, you know, mix everything. That's the only caveat there. Once you have it in the freezer, you put it in the fridge to defrost the day before and it's ready to go. The last ingredient is xanthan gum, and it used to be a teaspoon. I only do a 1/2 teaspoon now, and that's because I'm using Anthony's and I found it's much stronger than it used to be. Even I bought Great Value, which is what I usually use, the Walmart brand, and from one batch to the next, it was different. Make sure you stir that in real good. I'm gonna put this in the freezer real quick just to get them cool. It's very warm in here, so I don't want the butter to melt, and we gotta get our ice water. But I'm gonna get another part for the filling on the stove. So if you've ever made a pecan pie, not keto before, you know it's mostly corn syrup, sugar, pecans, some butter, and eggs. Well, we don't have corn syrup, but I have figured out you can make your own corn syrup with allulose. So we're gonna make some corn syrup here. I'm gonna make more than we need because people ask me all the time if they can sub liquid allulose for the powdered allulose in recipes where you're cooking allulose. And I never know what to say because I never really work with liquid allulose. So I'm gonna make more than we need and see how much we end up with making 2 cups of powdered allulose, how much liquid that gives us when it's, you know, melted down. So 1 cup of allulose, I usually weigh out at about 160. So that's 320. I'm just gonna get a little bit of water in here to start cooking this. You're not gonna be able to see it on there, but I'm gonna bring it on a medium heat and just stir it until it's all dissolved. And I'm gonna cook it to about 260. So I literally just made my maple pecan sticky bun recipe and it got to about 260 and it was super thick when it cooled down. We might as well measure the rest of our ingredients while we're here too for the filling. And I'm just following a regular pecan pie recipe. So I'm making the corn syrup, but everything else I'm pretty much staying the same on. I usually use Sally's Baking Addiction for my recipes. I look at hers and convert it to keto myself. I never look up keto recipes. And I just use the knowledge that I know to figure out a keto version. And that's easy on some things, and obviously some things it's not. Like, I've been trying filled donuts, cream puffs, pizza crust, all that stuff forever, and I still can't figure it out. But something like this, I've already made a pecan pie bar, so I'll link that up there for you. So it's very similar to that recipe. I'm gonna measure out my pecans. Need 250 grams. And I already got chopped. I'm gonna make sure that they're decently chopped up though in there. And I do have some halves that I'm gonna maybe put on top, so I'm gonna measure out some of those too. Every place was out of pecans. Like Walmart was almost out of pecans completely. So all I could find were these tiny bags. I'm gonna do 200 of the chopped. So that and that for the pecans. I'm gonna give this a stir now that it's starting to melt. The nice thing about allulose is I've never really had a problem with it like re-caramelizing or crystallizing from stirring it or having like granules up on the edge and anything like that. Pretty sure like the allulose had just started simmering when I took the temperature of it and it was over 250. Once it's all melted, keep a close eye on it. And because allulose isn't as sweet as corn syrup or our sweetener that we're putting in here, I'm going to add a teaspoon of stevia to the allulose mixture also. I kept the sweetener the same as a regular pecan pie. So if you're not super into sweet things, leave out the stevia. I didn't want to stray too far from the original recipe though. So it was a 1/2 cup of sweetener. So 96. And we're gonna put our 3 eggs into there. The recipe also called for 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. If you wanna do that, go ahead. So we're gonna whisk that until there is a lot less graininess in our sweetener. And then besides that is a 1/4 cup of melted butter, which is 56 grams. Okay, so that's all ready. We're not gonna do anything until we get our crust into the pan because that can go into the fridge and chill until our filling is ready. So let's get our dough ready to go. The allulose is just about melted in there, so definitely keep an eye on it. I'm also gonna grab a measuring cup and I got my 1 teaspoon and stevia ready. I have this laser thermometer, that's what I normally use. So this will be linked down below in the Amazon links. It's only at 180 right now. We're gonna cut our butter into our flour mixture. I like to use a fork so that it doesn't get warmed up by my hands. The corn syrup can be made like days in advance and it never like molds or anything. You just gotta make sure your containers and everything are like not dirty or anything. So I kind of break it up first and then I'll go in with my hands. I didn't grab my ice water yet, but you can do that right before you even start this part. But I don't have very many ice cubes. I don't have an ice cube maker down in the bakery or anything, so I gotta get my ice from upstairs. You just want little pea-sized pieces. It's pretty fast when you're just got it grated. Gotta get the big chunks basically. You can also use a pastry blender, but I just use my hands. Allulose is almost starting to simmer. The temperature real quick. There you go. Put this in the fridge for a minute while I get my ice water and check on my allulose. I got my ice water. I only had a couple ice cubes left. It's at 250 right now, and it basically doesn't look any different at all. I'm gonna go to 260 and then I'm gonna pull it off. It got down a little bit because I pulled it, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it. I'm gonna do 6 to 8 tablespoons. It all depends on if you swapped out ingredients though. So go on the less side if you swap stuff out. Some more absorbent than others, some flours. You want this just to come together. You don't want it wet. I'm not used to making just one batch of this, jeez. It looks so little. I should have just made a big batch because I have to make another one for an order. So it's just starting to come together. I'd say we're good. Still see plenty of butter flecks in there. We're gonna chill this. I'm gonna flatten it out real good so it chills faster. Chill it in the freezer for about 30 minutes. Then we'll roll it out and get it in the pan. Okay, it says we're at 270. It wasn't even like simmering or anything. So I'm gonna let that chill. Actually, I'm gonna put it in the measuring cup. Oh, see, and it only got us 1 cup of corn syrup. So it's a good thing I did extra. Barely a cup. I'm gonna add our 1 teaspoon of stevia to that. It's gonna bubble up. It's not very thick right now, but it gets real thick when it cools. We want it down to pretty much room temperature. Don't put it in anything but Pyrex because it is really hot. You don't want it breaking anything. So with that 1 teaspoon of stevia, we got about a cup of corn syrup. So now I know that if I'm trying to make a recipe with corn syrup, I need to do twice the amount of allulose cup-wise to get the cup I need for the corn syrup. So we learn something new every day. So I'll be back when everything is chilled. I'll roll out the dough and get that chilling again in the pan. And then we can make our filling. Okay, it's been about 30 minutes. This is still at 144 and it's super thick. So I may need to add a little bit of water to it. I think I took it a little bit too far. But we're gonna get the pie crust rolled out and into the pan and into the fridge to chill. Definitely make this ahead of time. Said make a lot of it. You can keep it in a container on your counter and it'll be good for when you want it again. I'm gonna put it back in the fridge to hopefully cool down a little bit faster. This is why I haven't done a video on corn syrup yet, because I still should do some testing on it to really get the temperature number exactly correct to have it the right consistency. If you did your corn syrup ahead of time, once you get the pie crust into the fridge, preheat your oven to 350, and by the time it's ready to go, your crust should be ready and you can make your filling and everything. So I just do it between 2 pieces of parchment paper. You could do it on a silk pad on the bottom and a piece of parchment on top of it. If you are waiting for your corn syrup and you're gonna wait a long time to roll out your pie crust, put it in the fridge, not the freezer, because it will get too hard. Because that's what happens. You wanna unstick it periodically, flatten it back out. Flip it, unstick it. Always go from the inside out. I haven't used these muscles in a while. I think carrying around a 26-pound toddler would help my muscles. You're almost there. Check where you got thicker spots, thinner spots. Make sure you concentrate there. And a little bit thin over here. Still pretty thick in the middle. A very poor shape. Not a circle at all. Out of practice. If your dough starts to get too soft, definitely throw it back in the fridge for a minute or 2. Or in the freezer real quick to give it a little bit of a chill. Okay, that's better. I think we're good. Whoop. So I sprayed my pan. Flip it over. Let it kind of fall into your pan. You don't want to push it into your pan. And I should have unreleased it from the other side before I did that. So you're going to lift it and push it in. Make sure it's down in the very edge of your pan. Go around the edge and get a little border on it. If you have extra somewhere, pinch it and grab it from another section. Probably could have rolled it a tiny bit bigger, so I don't have as much top edge crust as I like. Starting to get sticky here, so I should probably get it back in the fridge. I'm just gonna throw it in the fridge for a minute, or in the freezer, so then it'll get a little bit more solid and I can make a pretty border on this. It's probably about 80 degrees in the bakery right now because I've been baking all morning. It's real thick. Down to 120. Might add a little bit of water to this. I think it's gonna be too thick when it gets down to temperature. I do have a bottle of corn syrup back there I could kind of compare it to. I haven't used regular corn syrup in 4 years pretty much. I bought some because I thought maybe I'd have gluten-free people that didn't want sugar-free pecan pies, but nope. Yeah, I mean, that's not super thick. So I think I'm gonna add some water to this. That's all we did was evaporate water. So just add a little bit more back in. So I just did a splash of water in there, mixing it up. It's a little bit better, I think. We're at 114 now. The recipe I followed actually did call for dark corn syrup. It has some molasses in it. And I did just find this product on Amazon. It's sugar-free molasses. So I'm wondering if this would work in the pecan pie recipe. It looks similar in viscosity to the corn syrup, maybe a little bit thinner. So that could be an alternative. In my pecan pie bars, which I just looked it up. I don't even have a blog post for it because it was before I even started my blog. It was that long ago I made that recipe. But I used allulose and keto maple syrup for the pecan pie bar recipe. I'm wondering if that could be the case for this too, if you could do that. I'm gonna add a little bit more water, I think, still, because like I said, it's not even down to room temperature yet. We're down to 110 now. I think we're gonna be good to go once it's down to room temperature. So we'll be back when this cools off just a tiny bit more and we can get this filling going. Okay, it's down to about like 93. I did add a little bit more water. I'm going to preheat my oven to 350. The other thing I'm worried about is the allulose burning too much in here, which is why I don't bake with allulose a lot, because it keeps things really soft and it browns pretty quickly. The regular pecan pie recipe says 55 to 60 minutes. I know our crust will be fine because I've baked pumpkin pie for that long, but I am worried about the allulose. But it says just to cook it until the top is brown. So if I pull it out when it's brown and the crust is nice and brown, I'm hoping maybe it won't take 55 minutes and it'll be cooked completely. We'll see. This is a test for me too. I'm gonna melt my butter real quick. And I'm gonna measure out a cup of the corn syrup. I remember a trick, spraying the inside of the measuring cup so that way it comes out easier. But this is the consistency we're at right now. And I think this is a good consistency and it's not too high above room temperature, which right now my room is 80. I think we're gonna be okay with that. I looked at the ingredients on the corn syrup and there is vanilla in it also, so you could use vanilla stevia in the corn syrup. I add a little bit of vanilla extract, do like a 1/4 teaspoon. Also said salt, so I don't know if our pie isn't gonna be salty enough. Oh, I'm gonna chop those pecans up. I've been so fixated on getting the corn syrup right. I forgot about it. What I usually do is I just put them in a Ziploc and give them a roll with a rolling pin. It's easier than going through and chopping all these tiny pieces of pecans. Said you can have some big pieces too, so just some of the big guys. I think that's good. Some small, some medium, and then we got the large halves to go on top. I'm gonna get the sweetener and egg mixing. It's not gonna take very long because it's been sitting in there for a while. And with it being wet, it tends to dissolve faster than if we were to just put it in right now and start whipping it, it'd take longer. We do got some crusty yolk from the egg sitting there so long. Don't do that if you're making this. The yolk skin out of there. So we're pretty much dissolved in there. It's pretty liquidy, not a ton of graininess. Adding in warm butter and the corn syrup will help melt the granules also. I'm gonna get our pie crust out. Oh, and I forgot about it. I was gonna do the pretty crimped edge. My brain is all over the place. That doesn't seem like very many pecans. I guess you kind of get a little bit of custard in there too. That's why I thought we needed a lot more pecans. Hopefully this is enough. This is a 9-inch pie pan. I just wanted to do some around the edge, so I'm going to add the rest in there chopped in the middle. Thought I put it in the fridge. I forgot about it. Okay, I'll add on a corn syrup. A traditional pecan pie you don't even use a mixer for, but I wanted to use it to get our granular sweetener a little bit more dissolved. Make sure it's all mixed up in there. Guess that looks about right, huh? Just gotta fix my crimped edges. I'm angry at myself. Oven just went off. It's thicker. It's a little bit hard still, but okay. Well, it's a little bit better than it was. So I'm gonna pop this in the oven. I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I'm gonna start with 20 minutes, turn it 20, and see where we're at. It's 20 minutes. I'm gonna turn it. I'm only gonna set it for like 10 more minutes. Okay, it's only been another 10 minutes. I'm gonna check it because it looks like the crust is getting dark. So I might do the whole pie with tinfoil on it and cook it a little bit longer because it's still pretty liquidy. So I'm just tenting the entire pie with tinfoil. It said that in the regular one too. So the thing I hate about this is now I can't see it. Do another 10 minutes and we'll see what happens. It looks like a pecan pie. I'm just worried about it cooking enough and not browning too much. We'll see what happens. Okay, it's only been another 10 minutes. Let's take a look at the pie. I think it's done. Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. We gotta let this chill for a while and then we'll slice into it once it's hopefully room temperature-ish. It looks a little bit dark, but hopefully it'll taste delicious. Okay, it's time to try this pie. I made the mistake of not watching my pumpkin pie video all the way through or reading the blog post, and I put a shield on my pumpkin pie on the crust for the entire time it baked. It baked for like an hour. I'll probably make another pie before this video comes out, so I'll have notes throughout the video, but let's give it a try. Let's see how the inside turned out. Still a tad bit warm, so it might not cut very nicely. Pecan pie is definitely not one of my favorite Thanksgiving desserts. If you've watched me for any length of time, you know my favorite thing is chocolate. Definitely want to check it for sweetness and such too. I think if it was set all the way or cooled all the way, it'd come out better, but that looks like a custardy filling on there. It seemed to like set up jelly like a pecan pie, so pretty close. I apparently don't have another fork, so I'm gonna have to use a spoon. See how the bottom looks. The bottom is nice and crispy. That's good. Not burnt. Holding up. That is good. And it's sweet enough for me. So if you don't like super sweet things, I'd not add the stevia at all. That's really good, actually. Maybe I do like pecan pie. It's like a sweet custardy pecan filling. Good. I'm gonna try this crust, see if it tastes burnt at all. So, looks are deceiving. It turned out delicious. And definitely if you want it to look nice, I'll do the tenting and stuff on a new pie, but it turned out good. It tastes like a pecan pie. It's custardy in the middle, just what we want. And it tastes yummy. All around, a successful experiment, and it tastes delicious. So I hope you guys enjoy this recipe video and you try this recipe out for yourself. Let me know if you have it at your Thanksgiving dinner and how everyone enjoyed it. It definitely does not taste keto, especially at this sweetness. A lot of companies use all sweeteners so that it balances out really well, and this really does. You don't get any cooling from the erythritol, you got monk fruit, you got allulose, and you got stevia. So they all kind of balance each other, and you don't get one overpowering downfall from any keto sweetener you have in there. It turned out really good. Let me know what other desserts you are making for your Thanksgiving dinner. I'll link at the end card my caramel apple pie. That is a good one for Thanksgiving. Don't forget to check out my Amazon links and the blog link to the full recipe in the description box below. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I'll be back with more keto, low carb, healthy meal, snacks, and desserts. Bye guys. Happy keto baking.